Hello there, Kim Dodsworth, Queensland Storyteller. Recently, Melbourne writer and philosopher Boris Glickman sent me a series of 7 stories, the first 2 of which I read to you over a month ago. Today I bring you the third. It's called The Strange Story of Frank and His Friend, Mr. Stims. You'll recall that Boris's stories are far removed from the conventional, the pedestrian, the normal. First, he takes us along well-trodden paths, but then he detours us along unsuspected and hidden byways. Writing of great originality, which I know you'll enjoy. So anyway, like I was saying, I was sitting comfortably in this nice chair when Mr. Stims told me what he wanted to do with his invention. But please don't interrupt me again, because I'm going to forget what I was saying and wouldn't be able to tell you the whole story of what happened that day. And please, could you turn off that bright lamp? It's making my eyes sore. The 2 detectives looked at each other, and one of them reached out to switch off the lamp. Let me begin again from the start, as I can't remember now what I already told you. My name is Frank. I finished school 2 years ago. I stay at home most of the time and watch TV. I live with my mum. I like her a lot. She's very smart and knows about everything. So I don't see what's wrong with saying, "That's what my mum told me." But the other kids used to laugh when I said that and called me a retard, which made me angry. Now I can't hang out with them any more. My mum tells me I have a bad temper and could hurt them. My only friend is my next-door neighbour, Mr. Stims. I enjoy being with him. Usually I spend time in his living room where we drink tea, eat some biscuits, and discuss interesting topics. But that day, Mr. Stims invited me into his study room and asked me to sit in a comfortable chair beside his desk. He himself sat behind the desk, on which lay writing pads and folders, all neatly organised. After staring at me in silence with an odd look in his eyes for about a minute, Mr. Stims started talking. For the past 5 years, I've been engrossed in a fiendishly difficult task, as you've probably noticed. I no longer need to be secretive about what I do, but I did want to apologize for being evasive and unpredictable in the past. He continued, "You might remember from your school days, my friend, what a polar molecule is. Well, water just happens to be comprised of polar molecules. This fact is the linchpin of my work." "The fact that it is a polar molecule, does that suggest anything to you, Frank?" he asked. Not waiting for my reply as he usually does, he continued, "I will get straight to the point. For your benefit, I will state it in simplified terms. The water molecule is a charged particle. Charged particles respond to magnetic fields. By creating a magnetic force of appropriate strength and by aligning it in the right direction, we can separate the water molecule into its constituent parts. We can turn liquid water into gases of hydrogen and oxygen. The theory behind it is, of course, much more complicated than that, but what I've just stated is my work in a nutshell. The idea sounds simple enough. Let me tell you, putting it into practice was another kettle of fish. The years that I've spent trying to create a functional apparatus, attempting to discover the right alignment. Failure followed failure. Many a time I was tempted to throw it all up in the air and just walk away. Only one hope kept me going. I cannot say it was a well-defined sensation, but it was something like, well, that by achieving my goal, all my past deeds would gain the meaning they were lacking. I looked closely at Mr. Stims' face. Sweat had gathered on his forehead, and there was a distant look in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He then said, "You, Frank, are the first person in the world to hear of my achievement." Although I was flattered, I thought it would be much better if you could go the other way and make water out of invisible gases, so that people everywhere would have enough to drink. "But what are we waiting for?" he exclaimed. "Actions speak louder than words. Just 1 minute, and I'll show you how it works." While he was gone, I stretched my legs. They'd almost gone to sleep. I remembered dinner time was coming soon and wondered what my mum had cooked for me. I hoped that it'd be fish fingers with mashed potatoes. That's my most favourite meal in the whole world. My friend wasn't gone for long. When he came back, he was carrying a small, shiny box and a full glass of water. I thought it was really nice of him to bring me water, because I was really thirsty. I was about to reach out my hand and say, "Thank you, Mr. Stims, it's really thoughtful of you," when he put that shiny box over the top of the glass. There was a hissing sound, and the water disappeared before my eyes. I was a bit miffed, as I really did want to drink that water, but still the sight was so amazing I could not help crying out, "Wow!" I knew he expected me to say how impressed I was, and I did say so. He didn't reply for a while, and then he started a long speech. "I'm sorry, Mr. Policeman, but I can only remember bits of it. I have great plans, great plans. Imagine magnifying the strength of this machine 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Look at the map of the world, Frank. Look at how much space is taken by the oceans. 2/3 of our planet is water. How much land is wasted because of it? So many regions are overpopulated. This leads to stress. Stress leads to crime. What use is ocean water? We certainly cannot drink it. In any case, many regions that are now ocean used to be land once. We need to reclaim that land. And we need not stop there. The time has come for the oceans to go. We will make them disappear, just like the water in this glass. Certainly this might cause some climate changes, but they will be easily fixed. And just imagine, land, land, land everywhere. One great continuous continent. No barriers between countries. The whole world finally united as one. Living in peace. Room to plant crops. Room for cattle to roam. Spaciousness that at present mankind doesn't even dare to dream of. The potentialities are breathtaking in their scope. Yes, there will be a price to pay, and that price will be paid by the ocean inhabitants. But we need not concern ourselves with that. And I will go down in history as the man who made it all possible, the new saviour of humanity. It was all very interesting, but as I was getting rather hungry, I kept thinking more about the fish fingers with the mashed potatoes. It was then that a terrifying thought startled me so much that I felt like someone punched me in the stomach. I realized that without oceans, there'd be no more fish. And without fish, there'd be no more fish fingers for me to eat. As I said before, fish fingers really are my most favourite food. I said, "Hey, wait a minute, Mr. Stims. I really like fish fingers. You can't kill all the fish. Give me that shiny thing. I don't want you to destroy the oceans." "Fish, smish," he replied. "Who needs them? They don't sing, you can't pat them, and they smell terrible." He refused to give me the box. A scuffle broke out between us because I was getting a bit angry about not being able to eat fish fingers anymore, all because of his silly invention. I reached out for the gadget and tried to take it away from him. It was then that I accidentally pressed the round red button on its top. What happened next was the strangest thing of all. You know when you blow up a balloon and then let it go without tying up and it flies all around the room letting out air? Well, something similar happened to Mr. Stims. All this vapour started coming out of his eyes, nostrils and mouth, and he was getting thinner and changing in shape before my very eyes. Then he just fell to the floor, or rather what was left of him, for by now he looked like a gigantic squashed raisin. "I'm sorry about this, Mr. Stims," I said to him, "but I really do like fish fingers." I then took the box that was lying on the floor and broke it into small pieces. You both know what happened after that. The two detectives looked at each other, and one of them said, "Looks like it's going to be a long night for all of us, Frank." And you've been listening to The Strange Story of Frank and His Friend Mr. Stims by Boris Glickman. I'm Kim Dodsworth, Queensland Storyteller. Hope you'll join me again this time next week for more writing of quality.